there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, with a very simple project for you today. It is a wire lampwork bead bracelet. These are the sushi beads from Oriental Trading Company that I got a couple weeks ago, and they make a really cute bracelet. And the reason I love this technique of using the wire is that you can highlight your delicate lampwork beads and also protect them from wear and tear. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get some wire. I'm using 20 gauge copper, and you want to cut them into 3-inch lengths. I would say cut about 6 or 7 to start off with. You may need 1 or 2 more, but that way you won't end up with cut pieces that you won't use. You'll also want a few beads that match the lampwork beads you've chosen. And this time I'm going to use these pond beads from Oriental Trading. We've got snakes and frogs and snails and what have you, and they're super cute, and I think they'd be really fun in a bracelet. And a lot of times you do charm bracelets, you may have one of these dangling off a dangle or a tassel, but that adds a lot of wear and tear on these beads. And lampwork beads are a little more delicate, especially the character ones. So we want to make sure that they're set in a bracelet in a way that they're going to last, and they're going to look nice as well. So you really want to show them off. And so first thing you do is just kind of arrange your beads in the direction you want them to go. You want to grab a piece of wire. Now at this point, I think I'm going to throw a piece of felt down over my work surface and zoom in a bit, and that way you can see a little bit better what I'm doing, I think. Alright, we're going to use some round nose pliers here, and these are my favorite ones because they have a teeny tip. Now about 1/3 of the way down the wire I am going to make a bend, just like that. I'm just kind of bending the wire over the loop of my plier. Now I'm going to take the other end, the short end, and I'm going to fold it over. Now I've made a nice teeny little loop there, see? Now I'm going to put my pliers back in, and I'm going to wrap this tail around my wire about 2 times. So we started off with 3 inches of wire. That's going to give us plenty of room to do this. Now with my pliers, now this is difficult for me because my hands are quite a bit a ways away from my face, and I usually have my face stuck right in there so I can see what I'm doing. So basically I like to squeeze the rounds together, but I might not be able to do that so well on camera because I can't. If I get my face in there, my head's going to be in the way, and you don't want to see my big old head, you want to see the project. And then with my flush cutters, now there are cutters on here. If that's all you have, use them, but as soon as you can afford to, I would get a pair of side cutters. These were $1.50 at the hardware store, and they work fine. Sometimes you can't always tell a quality by the price, but a nice pair of side pliers work really good. Now you'll notice that that's a little pokey there, so you can either file it off, but what I try first before I file is I'll squish them with my pliers, and a lot of times that flattens them right down, and then I don't even have anything pokey to worry about. So it's not pokey at all, and I don't have to file. I've just saved myself some time. I'm going to grab my first bead and slide that right on there. So I've got my bead in the middle, I've got 1 loop there, and I'm going to make another loop here. The way I make this loop though, actually this is the first one on my chain, so I am going to close it. So I'm going to make my bend about 1/8 of an inch away from the bead. I'm going to wrap it around, reinsert my tip of my pliers, and just do another few wraps around so it's neat and tidy. But the real reason we do this is it's going to keep the beads from coming apart. It's going to reduce stress on the bracelet because these beads can tend to be a little heavy. So it's going to make your bracelet long wearing and durable. And again, I'm going to push my rounds of my wire together. I'm going to cut the leftover wire. I'm going to pull that a little bit tighter before I try to cut that. Make sure that's nice and close. The key, and it comes with practice, is and trim that as close as you can, is just to try to keep things uniform and neat as you work. My neatest work is never on a video because, as I mentioned before, I usually have my face right in there when I'm working, and I can't do that, or my head's going to be between the camera and my project. So there we go. We have our first bead that's treated. Now the second bead, it's a little different, and each of the following beads go on like this. So we again make our bend 1/3 of the way down the wire. We wrap our first loop. We close it up as neat as we can be. This will take a little practice getting nice and neat with this. So you know, if you wanted to practice and you're afraid of using the more expensive crafting wire, like copper is pretty much as expensive as I get. I'm kind of a frugal jewelry maker. I make costume jewelry. I don't like to be worrying about how much my wire costs when I'm making jewelry, so copper is as expensive as I go. But if you want some inexpensive wire to practice on, go to the hardware store and get some thin galvanized steel wire or some aluminum wire, and that way you can practice these techniques without using the really pricey wire. So I would recommend that, and you can do like things like home decor projects with that, some jewelry, not stuff that really comes right in direct contact with your skin, but you know, you can do some of the other stuff and get a feel for it before you delve out into the expensive stuff. So the next bead is going on here. And so this time when I do this other wrapping, I'm going to leave the loop open. So I've just made the bend and I've made the loop, and then I'm going to slip the previous bead onto that. And then I'm going to put the tip of my plier in, and I'm going to close that up using another wrapping. Wrapping it around about 2 or 3 times. It's nice to have 3 inches of wire here because it's a lot easier to bend that when you have a little extra. And again, I'm going to squash down the tip. Now if you want to pause it here, you're going to do that for every other bead you want to add. So let's get all these lampwork beads put on, and I'll come back and show you how to add a few accent beads. We'll be back in a moment. Okay, I have all of my charms on here. Now I'm going to compare it to the bracelet I made earlier as far as length and see what I need to add to make it long enough. So I'm going to need to add my clasp and a few other beads to make it as long as the bracelet that I made earlier. So let me show you really quick what I intend to do here. I have got a few green and orangey red beads that I think would look nice. So what I like to do is just kind of arrange a few on my bead board and see what really strikes me as pleasant. And I'll probably put a little bit on each end. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. And a lot of this is just kind of trial and error, see what you like the looks of and what's going to give you the right length that you need. And I think I'm going to be able to do a few colors on each end, which will be nice. Now I can string the beads together, or I can leave them apart. I can do like I can put each one on individually, which would give me more length, which I might not need, or I could do like one piece of wire for these 3 and one piece of wire for these 3. And I think that's what I'm going to do because that's going to give me the right length that I need. So I think that for this short one here, I can go ahead and use a 3-inch piece of wire. For this one, I'm going to go a little bit longer just to make sure I have the room to work. So again, I'm doing my loop as always. I'm going to leave it open and add in this guy here. And then I'll close that right up. It's the same thing we were doing on the other one, so I'm not going to zoom in. I want you to be able to see everything here. And I'm going to trim off my excess. Just kind of squash it in there. And smush it down with the flat part of my plier. I love the flat part of my plier because that saves me from having to file stuff later. If it's scratchy, go ahead and with the jewelry file, but if not, you are good to go. Put on my beads. And I'll show you in a moment how I store my beads because I think that's also very important because I'm always able to find exactly what I need. Now what I think I'm going to do, I think I'm actually going to add my toggle here, my loop for the toggle. So I want to make sure that I add a bigger loop than I have been. So I'm going to make my my bend, but I'm going to slide up on my plier a little bit so I get a bigger loop. And I'm going to slide in my toggle. This would be the O, the loop part of my toggle. Not the toggle part necessarily. And then I'm grasping the loop again that I made, and I'm going to wrap around the tail end. I may need my other pliers to get this around. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I'll be able to do this. So since we're doing these wraps, it's going to be a nice strong connection, so it shouldn't come loose on us, which is nice. And I'm just going to trim off that little bitty edge there. And squash her down. Just squash her right down. There we go. No sharp edges. So there, that was easy. We got killed 2 birds with that stone. And then I am going to add, probably use like a 4-inch piece just to make sure I have enough wire there. I'm just eyeballing it here. And there she goes, clear to the other side of my table. All right, so again, we're going to do that loop so that we can wrap it around. We're going to leave it open and slide on the last bead in our chain, which I actually did leave a little bit bigger because I thought I might go directly onto that with the clasp, but I didn't need to. And then we're going to complete our loop. Riveting stuff, but you know what? This is one of those techniques you want to practice. I often use the wrap loop even on earrings, even when a simple loop would do, because it's this more secure connection. And even though earrings aren't really weight bearing like a bracelet would be, still sometimes a bead can come loose, and they're very unlikely to come loose when you have a double wrap loop like that. Alright, and I'm going to go on with my beads. Now if this got too bent when I was doing that, I could smooth over it with one of these nylon jaw pliers. Those are kind of handy to have if you're going to do much wire working at all. A quick tip. If you make a mistake wrapping your loop and you've got a couple wraps on there, don't think you're going to save money by unwrapping that and trying again. You're going to end up making a very weak piece of wire. That's because you will have work hardened the wire, and it's more likely to snap and be brittle. So when you've got tight coils like that, don't unwind it and try to save the wire. Cut it off and start again. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a broken bracelet or piece of jewelry in your future, and it's going to be very hard to work with. So it's not going to be worth saving that 3-inch piece of wire. Just wanted to put that tip out there because I've done it before thinking, well, I'm just going to save that wire. I feel bad wasting it. Don't do it. Alright, so here I'm actually going to do, I think I'm going to try putting this on there. I think we might be able to, that might have enough wiggle on there to work out for us. So again, I'm going to make a larger loop. I'm going to put this guy in here. Now I find that it's not, if I can't get it through the hole, then I can always cut that wire off and try again with a couple jump rings a little bit more traditionally. But I think I want to give this a try and see if it's gonna work out for me and save that step. Okay, I'm gonna trim off that extra. That loop is pretty big, but I'll see how she works. I've apologized before that my best wire work is not done on tape because I can't get my head in there. My eyeballs as close to my project as I'd like. That is not the most elegant loop I've ever made, but we'll work with it. That's pretty unelegant loop, but that's alright. You get the gist. I've shown you how to do it properly, so you know. And look at that! Yes, it does work just fine. So I think that's a really lovely bracelet. I'll show them to you side by side. I'll put my other felt down here. We've got the sushi bracelet. And we've got the pond. I actually like the Pond Life one better. Pond Life. I want to call it Pond Life. It's very Doctor Who-ish, don't you think? Amy Pond. Grab your coat, Pond. We're off on an adventure. Sorry, British people. That was a horrible accent. Alright, so I also want to show you how I store my beads while we're here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more without zooming in, zooming out. Here we go. I'm so good here. Crafty. This is how I store my beads. I store them by color. You can use fish and tackle boxes, whatever you like. I like these Ultimate Stackers by, honestly, you can hardly read the copyright Sweet Scrap Stations, maybe? Ultimate Stacker, anyway, is what it's called. And they're great for storing beads. I store all my beads by color. And I probably have, I definitely have 5 of these stackers that have 5 trays each, and they are chock-a-block full, but I can find exactly what I want when I want it. For specialty beads, like the Oriental Trading lampwork beads I was using, I just use a dollar store little craft organizer bin there in the craft aisle for $1, and they're great for storing my specialty beads together. So there you have it, our lovely bracelets made with lampwork beads from Oriental Trading Company. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I am not the best wire worker in the world, but I will certainly help you out if I can. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.